Ask the host.
Here we go. Good morning, everyone. I've got it recording. So welcome, and I'm going to have to try and reposition myself just a little bit so the sun isn't in my screen, but I am sat here on my car in vacation, but excited to be joining the call with you all this morning on the 5th of July. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the topic that I gave in the weekly newsletter on Friday. I'm not sure if everyone's had the chance to read that, but I send that out every week, Mike and I do. And I talked there about the importance of posture. And I want to elaborate a little bit on that today, because I do think this is an important issue for each of us to develop and to practice, and to understand how we can develop it, because sometimes we see it in others and we envy it in others, and we kind of feel a lacking of it in ourselves. And I think this is something we can deliberately develop and acquire. It's not something that just appears. I've shared this example in the past. I shared it in the newsletter, but it's such a relevant story. I was with a lady who in the UK who was always very anxious to catch the big fish. Have you heard that phrase before? Going after the big fish. If I can just get that big fish, then my business would be awesome. It would be fantastic. And because they would, of course, bring in with them this groundswell of growth and prosperity. And so she was always wondering, how can I catch and attract these big fish? And of course, the interesting thing is some of these big fish aren't always the big fish that they position themselves as being. And I had a unique example once where they came to me. I'd moved from Amway to another company a number of years ago, and they said, "Oh, Ben, this is great that you're here. I've got this guy. He was the top leader in Amway in Ireland, and maybe you can talk to him." I said, "Oh, well, I'll know who that is. What's his name?" And they gave me his name, and I was like, "He's not the top leader in Amway in Ireland. What are you talking about?" Right? He was peacocking, and he was positioning himself as being this big hitter, but he was not. He had a leadership rank, but he was not by any stretch one of the big leaders in the marketplace. But he certainly positioned himself that way. And sometimes when we're going after these big fish, we can get very easily distracted by their egos and how they want to be courted and what they expect as a result. But regardless, she had this experience where she was struggling. She would host a monthly meeting that was kind of like the Irish kind of market's main meeting that would take place every month. And it would be once a month that she'd host this, and she would average about 30 people at the meeting. And it would be the same people that were coming month after month after month. And so one day her upline, who lived in the States, said, "Let me come over and help out." And he spoke to me and said, "What can I do to help the business? Maybe I can do a bit of a tour around the market, the UK, Ireland, what have you, and we can set up some meetings and I can speak." And I said, "It really doesn't help if you just get out there and speak. It'd be great if you actually built the business with us." And he said, "Okay, great, let's do this." So he changed his schedule and his agenda, and it was fantastic what happened. So he reached out to this lady and he said, "This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to come to Ireland for 1 week." He said, "I want you to set up a meeting in a different town every night of the week that I'm there. So I'm going to be there for 7 days. I want to have 7 meetings, and I want you to show up and you fill the room, and I'll sign people in." Right? He says, "And in between the meetings, I will meet with your team and we'll do one-on-ones and we'll do coaching sessions and mentoring, and they can, meet me at a set hotel and we'll do that." Well, that's a great plan, right? But keep in mind, at her best, she gets 30 people in a room once a month. Now she's got to book 7 meetings in the space of a week in different cities and get people there. So all of a sudden, after she's agreed to this, panic and anxiety sets in, right? And it's like, what are we going to do? And this was interesting how this unfolded. So her and her team, and she kind of turned to the main guys that would show up during the monthly meeting and say, "Okay, guys, in your town, we're going to host it here." And they planned out their meeting schedule. And it's like, we've got to do everything that it takes to fill up this meeting room, because he's coming all the way from America to do this. If we have no one turn up, I will die. Right. And so they were putting little notes up in the local supermarkets. Sometimes you get in the little notice board areas, they were putting little signs up there. Some of them even kind of put ads in the local newspaper, on local radio, and they were phoning around and they were frantically calling people, inviting personally. You got to come to this meeting, come to this meeting, come to this meeting. And as a side note, they never did that for their monthly meeting. For the monthly meeting, it was just a text or an email, and that was it, right? They just rested on the fact that these guys would show up. That's all they did. So interesting note there, yeah, that's what they did. So anyway, she calls me the night of the first meeting, and it's about to happen, and she calls me, and she's like, oh my gosh, she's like, I've got butterflies in my stomach, I'm nervous. She's like, I feel like a schoolgirl right now that's like hosting a party, worried that no one's going to turn up, right? And I'm just going to be embarrassed in front of my friends, kind of thing. And she was all jittery and nervous. Anyway, the first night they got 50 people showed up to the meeting, right? And they signed 10 new people in to the business at the end of the night. So they had 10 new enrollments and 50 people. The next night they did the same, and they got the same results every single night for a week. And they signed in 15 new people in 7 days. Now, that was phenomenal, right? And I remember watching one of the meetings, because I was there I attended one of the events, and she got up, and this was towards the end of the week, and her confidence was just booming now, right? She's in the zone, she's in the flow. This is happening great, and her sponsor, her enroller, gets up from America. He's a big, multi-million-dollar earner and all that kind of stuff. And with all the confidence that he possesses, he gets up there and he does the presentation, and people sign in afterwards. And I sat down with her for a debrief. I said, Jane, what did you learn from this week? Because I've learned some things here, right? What have you learned? And she said, and I said, for me, what I think I've learned in watching this unfold is you have now discovered what it takes to get people to meetings, right? Because what you did this week was incredibly different to what you've done on your monthly events, where you get 30 people in a month and then bemoan the fact that no one new was turning up. Something else happened here. You changed the game because of that anxiety, but look at what you produced. Look at what developed. And she's like, oh yes, 100%, far more effort and energy is required to get people to meetings than I originally thought, or based my evidence on, right? Because she was looking at, well, we communicate, we send out messages, but the same people show up, and she would throw the blame onto them. Why aren't they doing their job? It's like, no. It's on your shoulders, 100% responsibility. The game changed. When you owned it, you changed the standard and you leveled up and you got different results. And I said, what did you learn? And this was really interesting. She said, I learned that I can do the presentation just as well as Greg can. Greg was her sponsor, right? The big hitter from America. She goes, I learned that I didn't actually need him to come over to England and to Ireland and do the presentation for me. I can do it just as well as he can. I'm just as good. And I was like, I love that. Now, what happened as a result of this experience was she suddenly developed posture. Her position. She then started to increase the level of her activity, changed her game, and then became the highest ranking distributor that we had in Europe, and the biggest check earner. All of a sudden, she started getting these big checks. And then she said to me one day, just going back to the start of the story, she goes, I've just realized something, Ben. She said, I've spent all this time going after big fish. And she goes, and now I am one. I am the big fish. And I said, and how does that feel, Jane? She goes, it feels fantastic. She goes, because now I see people will want to come to me because of who I am, but I can start to pull people in with a different posture. So I've thought about this, and what I want to talk about today is what took place there in order for her to have this paradigm shift where she became something different. And as a consequence of that, generated different results. Because that's what happened. There was a process that she went through that all of us can go through if we choose. Because what happened there was something of her own choosing. She'd been in the market for a while. Her business had been flat for a long time. She was struggling to get results. She was trying, but she was doing the same stuff over and over and over and getting the same results, and then getting frustrated. And in time, what happens with that is that starts to erode your belief in yourself or in your business, because I'm getting the same results. Not much is changing. I'm trying, I'm working, but I'm not getting the results that I want. And so that starts to affect here, your heart, your mind. And then when your heart is affected or disaffected, I should say, then your effort gets compromised. Because now I believe I'm not good enough or I'm not capable enough. And so my effort then starts to represent my mindset. And that becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. So what she did was she created for a moment, and it wouldn't have felt like a moment for her because it was a week long. And that was the week of the events. And there was, of course, some time building up to that where there was the pressure because, you know, we've booked this in, we've scheduled it, we've organized something, he's flying over, I've got to deliver. So you got all of that build up and anticipation, and then the week of the events itself. But what happened is she created change. I want to share a simple point here, because posture, when we talk about developing posture, posture is really a fancy word for confidence, isn't it? When I have confidence, my posture changes. I stand up taller, I stand up straighter. When you look at how to build posture online and do some research, it's really talking about how do I develop confidence? Because the body language of someone with posture is exactly the same as someone with confidence. Yeah. But here's the interesting thing. Confidence is built on accomplishment. I'm going to say that again, because if there is anything amongst all of the words that I share in this 30-minute class, it's this. Confidence is built on accomplishment. If you want to feel confidence in your business, it doesn't come as a birthright. You earn it. And you earn it through accomplishment. But that starts off small. And we start with small wins and quick wins, and then we grow from there. We don't suddenly have the confidence of a diamond or a royal diamond, because so often we look at the people that have that confidence and posture and equate it with their rank or with their check, for example, or with the size of their business and go, well, of course they've got their confidence because that's what they have. But they didn't have that when they started. So how did they develop that confidence? How did they develop that posture? It was developed as a matter of process over time. And that process was from accomplishment to accomplishment. So I want us to make note of that and go, if I really want to grow my confidence, I can do it with some small wins over time, or I can do it with some big wins as well. You choose. It can be either or. We can each have that experience that Jane had, where we say, over the course, I'm going to book out in a month's time, I'm going to book out a week and have meetings every night of the week for 1 week. And if anyone wants to do that, by the way, if you're wherever you are in the country and you say, Ben, I'm going to set up a week of events and I'm going to have a new meeting every week in a different part of town with someone else in my team, and we're going to fill the room. We're going to make it happen. And I want you to come along and help us out. I'll be there. I'll come out and I'll help out. But understand, what will make that a success will not be me attending. It'll be perhaps the emotional pressure that you justifiably give yourself in saying, I've got to make this count. Yeah. You make it count and it will happen. Make that, because then as a consequence of that result, what happens in that week, then your posture changes because you can start to get the results. So let's look at what we can do to develop that confidence. The first thing is we've got to get things done. Like I said, confidence is built on accomplishment. Big or small, we feel better about ourselves when we see things getting done in our business. Okay. And so that to me is the number one biggest thing that we can focus on. What can we do to get things done? And how can we measure our growth and our change? So we need to make sure that we're measuring the right things, everything. But there are some critical things. Having meetings, having new people show up to meetings, getting new people signed in, having ABCs, doing presentations, getting new customers. Those are the core fundamental things. There are a ton of different things that we can measure, but at the end of the day, the things that matter most are the results that generate income and growth. Yeah, we can measure a lot of different stuff, and we want to measure that along the way. Don't get me wrong, but if we start to neglect the most important things, like talking to new people, signing in new people, getting new customers, hosting new meetings with guests and what have you, if we move that stuff out of the equation because we're trying to focus on other stuff, we're starting to deceive ourselves. Yeah, we don't want to live a life of self-deception because our heart always calls it out, doesn't it? It always calls it out. And in our heart, regardless of what we say to anyone else, regardless of how we position ourselves and how we present ourselves and the facade we put on or the mask that we wear, our heart will always tell us the truth when it comes to these activities. So we want to make sure that we say it like it is to ourselves and confront it and make sure that we accomplish meaningful goals that we set for ourselves on a daily, weekly, and monthly basis. And the benefit of having the upline come and show up is it just increases that level of accountability. Yeah, because it's so easy to set a goal for ourselves, not share it with anyone, not keep it, move the goalposts, change the date, change the time. No one else is any the wiser, but we are. And we don't realize it, but subtly over time, our heart just goes, and I believe that result, which is nothing. And I believe that result, which is nothing. And we start to misinterpret what is really happening. Yeah. When all we need to do is put a different effort in. Yeah. But we will judge ourselves on our results, whether we like it or not. That's what our mind and our heart instinctively does. It will judge us on our performance, not on our misdirected effort. Yeah. So we've got to make sure that we do that. Monitor progress. Number 2, in order to build our confidence, we've got to make sure we do measure the right things and monitor it effectively. So big or small, break our goals into smaller goals and monitor our progress so that we can get the job done and get our results met and our needs met in our business. Number 3, I kind of touched on this already, do the right thing. So many of us are happy to spend our time in our weekend business doing stuff, but the stuff isn't always the right stuff. Get the right stuff done and prioritize the most important things. Be accountable, break it down into small pieces, connect with an upline, a sponsor, a mentor, and get the important stuff done on time. And then, like I said, break it down and monitor your progress. Number 4, be fearless. Now, being fearless doesn't mean that you're not scared and you only do the stuff that doesn't scare you. Being fearless, in my interpretation, is feeling the fear and doing it anyway. I think Jane, in that story that I shared earlier, was petrified for 7 days straight, at least, as she went about that goal. Yeah, and in fact, I think not long after she made the commitment to her sponsor, when he said, I will come over and I will work with you for that week, I think the fear set in right then. She was excited to get his support, but at first it was like, yeah, we need your help because we're struggling here. Come help us out. And then when the plan came in, boom, the pressure was on her, not him. It was on her. I'll sign people in, you get people in the room. Well, the easy part is really doing the presentation. The hard part is getting people in the room. Yeah. But she did both. But I think she felt the fear from the moment that commitment got made. But she did it anyway. Yeah. So feel the fear, do it anyway. Failing isn't our enemy. So keep that in mind. Failing isn't the enemy, but the fear of failure might be. Yeah. Sometimes we might let fear get in our way, but fear can be our friend if we lean into it and face it. It becomes our enemy when we don't respond to it. Okay. So learn how to respond well to fear there and get out of our comfort zones. Number 5, stand up for yourself. There are going to be some times where I'm going to stand up for what I believe in, what I think is really important, and get this done. So we need to be confident in standing our ground and say, this is what is right, this is what is best, and so I'm going to go at it and do it and be serious about it. I think that's really simple. It's simple is not easy, especially for those that are more introvert or more nurturers, more peacemakers, in their nature. Um, the supporter types, will back someone else's idea much more than they will their own. Yeah.
Yeah.
So if they've got a sponsor that's that's a promoter or an analyzer or a controller, maybe they'll follow their direction, but to follow their own, it's a little bit harder. Yeah. So depending on your personality type, standing up for yourself can be easy, can be straightforward, can be natural, or it cannot be. It can be the total opposite because the supporter type will be more inclined to back someone else's vision and ideas more than their own. So depending on which personality type you are, that can be tough or easy. The last one that I want to talk about, because we're mindful of time, is follow through. Set the goals. I've seen some people here writing notes. Set the goals. Now follow through. Make it happen. So as you're thinking about this and putting your plans together, be sure that you follow through. That really is what gets the job done. There are so many people that have great ideas, great vision, great expectations, great hopes and aspirations, but they don't follow through. And as a consequence, they don't enjoy the fruits of success. We've got to make sure that we follow through. So we've covered a few things today in developing posture, but I hope you recognize that the power is in your hands. That's the point that I really wanted to emphasize today, is wherever we are on the spectrum of personal confidence, I believe all of us can justifiably have a little more. Why? Because I believe we are all far more powerful, wonderful, and significant than we give ourselves credit for, even when we are rooted firmly in a healthy self-confidence. Even when we have a healthy self-confidence, we need to understand that we are greater and more powerful than we realize. And if we knew that and could tap into that, how would our behavior change? What would our outcomes be as a result of that? Because so often what we do is the fruit of what we think, feel, or believe. So if I'm not working hard, if I'm only working half-heartedly, if I'm trying but I'm struggling because I don't think I can get the results, so much of that starts here. Yeah. But to change that, we have to change results, because confidence is rooted in accomplishment. Yeah. So in order to get that sense of confidence, we've got to get some accomplishment under our belt in order to change it. We don't change it simply by having a positive mental attitude. It's our results that change it. But it's a commitment to act, to measure the right things, to stand strong, to face our fears, and to follow through, that will help us get better results. And as a result of that, as a consequence of that, then our confidence grows. And then it's not fake it till you make it stuff. It's the real deal. It's the real deal. And then we can grow it and grow it and grow it. And it can be whatever we want it to be. But I know with great confidence comes great activity. And with great activity, eventually we figure out how to get it right. Yeah. Because, and I say that because great activity doesn't always lead to getting it right. Yeah. It leads to the discovery of what is right. I've always found when I'm mentoring people that those that have the greatest increase in performance and in results are not those that talk frequently, but those that follow up with what they're doing and say, I'm stuck here. How do I fix this? I'm stuck here. What do I do next? Or I've hit this brick road, this brick wall. How do I break through it? What's the struggle here? And they're coming, and the mentoring is really how to unpack the brick walls, the obstacles, the barriers, the unexpected learning curves that comes with activity, because activity teaches us more than anything else. The more we do, the more we learn, so that over time, as we deconstruct and analyze and get it right, we get the right activity into play, and then the results follow. So don't expect that with the right attitude and the right confidence comes the right results. It just brings with it the right volume of confident activity, which can be transformed into the right activity, and from there into the best results. So expect the learning curve, expect the brick walls, expect the barriers, expect the roadblocks, anticipate all of that stuff, do it anyway, so that you can get the accomplishments in, small at first and grow it out, but get those accomplishments in so that you can grow your confidence. If we don't do that, our confidence, I don't believe, is static. I think the law of entropy applies to our confidence as much as it does to thermodynamics. Yeah, the law of entropy being that everything moves from a state of order to a state of disorder over time. We can have great confidence, but if we're not doing the right things consistently over time, then eventually we will not be getting the right results, and that will impact our confidence and our belief. Subconsciously, we will be talking to ourselves going, this isn't working out, and our confidence will retreat and it will move backwards. Yeah. So I don't believe our confidence is static. It can pause for a moment, but it will not stand still. We need to constantly be focused on putting in the right effort to get the right results, face our fears, do the follow through, get something in that we can measure and go, I'm doing this right. Yeah. Versus I'm simply showing up. So I hope this helps, and I hope this gives us something to work with so that we can really get our confidence growing to new heights. And like I said, regardless of where we're at, our confidence can grow and blossom, because we are, all of us, more powerful, more glorious, more wonderful, more beautiful, and more capable than we realize we are at this present moment. So we all have room to make it better. So thank you all very much. I hope this has been a great help, and we'll see you real soon. Take care, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Excellent call. Enjoy your vacation.
Thank you. Thank you.